Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. So tonight we're going to go through forex trading live market analysis. Before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer, any questions to the chat box or the question box. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see you chatting along, so I can't talk to you. But if you follow the link that I've given you, you can just come and join us in the webinar. So I'll just let everybody read through the risk disclaimer. And for certain parts of the world, times have changed for the webinars. So it's 7 p.m. Sydney time now. If you're in Queensland, or if your clocks haven't changed, my clocks haven't changed in Queensland. It's always 7 p.m. for me every week. But if you've got daylight saving changes, then your clocks may have changed. All right, let's move along. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at XAUUSD Securities, and I'm a full-time trader. I trade the forex market now for more than 15 years and mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there on screen, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Through the week, you can touch base with me on our website. My analysis on our website at acy.com, Market News tab, our YouTube channel, XAUUSD Securities Australia, and you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And in our Telegram channel, you can connect with me in there. Just email Nathan Bray to get access. I've got his details in the chat at the moment. If you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates as well, then you can simply email Nathan. He will organize that for you. So I'll put that information in the chat now. Any questions, really give Nathan a call. He'll be able to address any questions on anything, really. All right, I don't actually work in the office, so I'm not really contactable than by an email. All right, now let's get to the news first up before we get into the charts. And coming up on the midnight, these are Queensland time at forexfactory.com. So midnight, we've got the US job openings figures coming out. Tomorrow, midday, we got New Zealand interest rate expecting 25 basis point rise. We didn't get any rise from the RBA today, and that was not very good for the Aussie. That sank. So they did say maybe we're still going to get, maybe we might get another rise yet, but data dependent, I think a little bit more is the idea. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, so we do have into the evening on Wednesday, ADP non-farm employment change, midnight into Thursday, ISM service PMI data for the US. And we do have the job figures for the US into Friday evening there. So just head over to Forex Factory, get this set up for your time zone. You can see where all the major news items are coming out. All right, so not too much except for US job openings coming on midnight. Now, the market is a bit mixed. Some pairs are going up versus the US dollar. Some pairs are going down versus the US dollar. Some pairs have been heavily, like a dollar CAD has been heavily selling off. Pound has broken its high today. Euros tried to break its high and then it's fallen back. So it's all a bit mixed on some pairs. There's not like a true correlation going on at the moment. And let's go to the US dollar. US dollar for the last 2 or 3 weeks here. We go to the weekly charts. We are moving down from a higher top here. Are we going to hold the bottom here and put in a higher bottom? We're at the 79% level. Over the last week, and Cameron's saying you can't see my charts, so let me see, what do I need to do? All right, how's that? Can you see my charts now? Yep, all right, great. All right, thanks for that. Or I could have been talking for the next half an hour and nobody's telling me you can't see the charts. All right, excellent. All right, so I'm on the dollar index weekly chart here. And we are moving down here, but we are moving down from a higher top. And we false broke this significant weekly low here where we moved up from last year. So we're sitting right at the 79% retracement. Last week we traded inside the week before where the week before we touched the 79% level. This week we have traded below that low there, but it is a 79% retracement. Yesterday I was pretty positive maybe we'd bottom yesterday. After reversal on Friday, we were up quite nicely at the start of the day and things were reversing, but no, we then got into London and we totally reversed. And on my other screen, the pound's still heading up. So are we going to be able to hold here or are we simply coming down? All right, so it's worth watching the structure here of the dollar index over the next, we obviously got the job figures on Friday, how this looks over the next week. Do we false break the 79% level? Do we start to move back up or is this going to start to keep moving down? All right. On the opposite, we're kind of up to the 79% retracement of this range on the S&P 500. Of the monthly range from high to low over here. So the monthly range, give you a high chart perspective. There's the monthly range from high to low. We're all coming back up to the top once more. Now the weekly is actually showing higher top, higher bottom here, but we're coming all the way back into weekly resistance and the 79% fib of that monthly range. So over the next week to 2 weeks, we're going to obviously see whether or not the market can really get into an uptrend there on the indices. This one's the S&P 500, and we're going to see whether that dollar index really falls down into a downtrend. Because we have over the last since September-ish, that's August high. There's another high there in November, and then there's another high up here in January. We can't take that out with any clear move. We could just fail here and start to move down again. So things aren't that certain. We're, resistance or support levels as we go through the pairs. So some of them were clear resistance or support levels that could hold, and we could move back the other way. All right, so let's just get into the pound first of all. It's not offering it. We can go through the pound later because that's not offering a trade at the moment. It's still going up. And if you wanted to be long, you should have been long by now. We might start with the euro dollar because this is at its resistance level. Here's the day chart. And this is the inverse look of the dollar index. We're at the 79% level of this weekly high to low. And as I said, I thought Friday we were reversing there, putting a lower top, but we got support from this daily high here, and we've reversed back up. Now we have traded above that top. That's the FMC top, but we're still at that resistance level there. That area there is at 109.29 is the highest point, but I'm using 109.27 from this high over here. So all these highs here at the moment are all getting formed against this structure that formed here where we false broke and then fell back down. So we're right at the false break level where we tried to move above last time. And last time moving above was back in late January here. So the market's asking the question here, are we going to hold here and turn around, or are we going to move down? So, for our charts, trying to just trade above here. It has actually, the last candle rejected. We're obviously just fractionally trading above there at the moment. Now, I'm not going to buy here. I'm not going to buy into resistance. I know the trends are up. You could say theoretically at the moment, day trend's up. We've traded above these highs. The day trend has to be up, but I'm not going to trade into a clear resistance. So I'm just sitting on my hands. I'm watching to see whether we get a complete false break. We had a complete back to the daily. We had a complete false move up through here and then straight back down. So the market knows that. Are we going to get a similar kind of thing going on here? So, all right, so just monitor. Do we start to see a reversal? If we want to be a buyer, we're going to need to see a clear move above this 109.27. Let's call it the 30 level because there's a couple of tops in there. 109.30, we're going to need to see a clear move above that, and 109.30 is going to need to become support intraday. All right, so at the moment, this is just, for me anyway, it's just false break kind of area on the chart, potentially. So depending on your philosophy, if you're thinking we're getting a false break here, 62% retracement at the moment. So we've dropped 62% retracements. If we don't get a commitment above here on a 15-minute candle, we get another candle that closes back below the level, then that might be a signal like, hey, you could be going short, stop above the day's high and see how this starts to reverse or not. All right. All right, there's a little mini 15-minute trade entry there. We're at the 62 level. It could spike up to the 79% level. We've got last month's high there, last week's high. There's lots of resistance right now where we're trading at. So what's going to happen there? You could be waiting for a trend line break, a swing point break if you're looking to trade the reversal here, if a reversal comes. So you can monitor that. We're at 79% level of that weekly range as well, 109.22. So just monitor to see whether we hold. Over the next 24, 48 hours, if we're going long, we need to be nicely above here and we're pulling back to this level to be support. We're obviously not nicely above it at the moment because we're sitting right on top of it. We're just trading straight there at the moment. Pound is flying up at the moment towards 125, but this is not flying up at all. So that's the euro dollar. Euro yen, I'm a little bit on the fence on the euro yen at the moment. We're coming all the way back up. Would have had a line up there at the top, but the high 145.564. We obviously completely failed at that weekly top up there. There's a weekly top just there. So lots of things are range bound. This is weekly support down here, what we false broke. Came all the way back up to weekly resistance. False broke. Now, we potentially are forming a higher bottom here, but what I want to know is if we come up, there's two highs to the left here. If we come up to 145.56 again, what happens? So let's drop into the 4-hour chart. Just want to monitor that. That was Friday's sell-off down to Monday's low. We're at the 79% level at the moment. But what I want to know is, can we come up to 145.56? Then what do we do? Do we fail again? Because if we fail there for the second time, we could well be moving all the way back down the range. Okay. Again, just going to the day chart here. I'm not going to buy here into all this resistance. When you got a clear range from weekly high to a weekly low here, if it's range bound, you want to be buying at the lower end of the range, taking your profits at the top of the range. If we're holding at the top of the range, looking to sell to move down. So, of course, we can break above the range, but I'm not going to buy at the top of the range. So all I can do then is monitor to see if it offers a reversal at the top there. Now, I might not get up to the top. We're at the 79% level. Maybe that's as much as this has got. Maybe ultimately that's Friday's move down. This could just be all corrective here to fail at the 79% level to trade down. Now, it's quite a large range from 145.22 up to Oh, it's not too bad. I thought that was 146. That's 145.66. There's only 44 pips from here to the high. And if you even put your stop 10 pips above, there's only about a 60 pip risk if you want to trade that at a 79% retracement level. Failure. Stop goes above the high. All right. So you can work out how you want to trade it. Or if you want to trade it, I'm just waiting to see if we can come up to retest at the moment. If we don't retest, then I'll have to work out something else how to get in. But at the moment, I'm just waiting to see if we can come up for a retest. And do we hold? All right. All right, I'm going to head over to the pound. Now, the pound has more than traded up through this double top here. That actually turns the weekly trend to up. When we broke this low down here, the weekly trend turned it down. And then we completely false broke that. And we've moved above that high, turning the trend up. Are we going to be able to hold above here or not? I mean, the critical thing to understand, where we're all trading up at the moment, that's last year's high to low. That double top that formed was at the 62% area here of last year's trading range. So whilst we're moving above at the moment, over the next 2 or 3 days, do we pull back to 124.48, which is the highest top there? Does that hold as support to continue the move up? All right, we're about 50 pips above at the moment. This false break down here was like a 40 pip false break. We could have a false break here or not. We could obviously be moving way higher on the pound. But just be aware of its position, where we've been failing through the start of the year. All right. So day trend is up there. The question will be, can the market now hold above that top at 124.48? We've just hit 125. So you obviously don't want to be buying right at the top there. If you think we're going up for the next 200, 300 pips, you don't want to be buying at the top. You do want to wait for that pullback. And, on the 4-hour chart, you want to start to see, we'll put in a top somewhere. And then can we pull back to, where is it, 124.48? That's the double top area we just broke above. And does it want to move up and beyond there? If we start to trade back below 124.48, we're starting to deal with a false break. So, we'll have to wait and see. And Slavia's saying, Euro's been sucked up by the rising pound at the moment, but if pound reverses, Euro will fall again against the yen. And like you say, the big traders may be wanting to drive that up as high as they can today. And it's at 125.05 now. But driving up as high as they can, if they're wanting to fill their shorts, they're wanting to maximize all those retail traders clambering on board at the moment. Some retail traders may be deciding that they're wrong. Some will be clambering on board to go long. And of course, maybe we are completely breaking that area now for a much higher pound. We'll just have to wait and see. But over the next few days, you don't want to be buying it. Well, I don't want to be buying up there anyway. You all make your own decision about where you're buying or selling. But this is very high up at the moment on this current move. And I was so the 4-hour trend turned down here, breaking Friday's low. I was expecting this to be moving down this week, but clearly the pound's got a different idea at the moment. All right, so looking for a pullback. Pullback must hold at 124.48. If you can't, then you're actually looking for a reversal. So just keep monitoring. There's no point going down. You can go down to the 50-minute chart and have a look. It's just going north at the moment. All right. Now, if you thought this was very high, you could just be waiting for a swing point break, trend line break for it to trade back down. And the first point of call for it to trade back down to is where it's just broken above, 124.48. So you can monitor that. That's relatively strong at the moment. I wouldn't want to short that at the moment. I don't want to be buying at the top, but it's going up way too hard to think about shorting. It's not giving me any sign that it wants to stop at the moment. And for me, to short this, it needs to start to want to get back below 124.48. So I'm just watching that at the moment. Pound yen is going to be challenging its higher. Oh, it's actually broken that high there with that pound dollar moving up. So I've been monitoring this range. And we're at the 79% level. And we're actually, this big imbalance candle, probably this move up at the moment is filling any imbalance in there that's remaining. Let's just have a look at it on the 4-hour chart. All right, so it's pretty much, and there may still be some imbalance there on 1-hour chart, but from a 4-hour chart perspective, it's pretty much been a fill there on that drop. So pound dollar and pound yen, we just need to wait and see what they want to do. Can they continue? Now, the levels that they're moving above, so we're moving above 166.00, that needs to become support for the market now to continue up. With that 79% level, it's clear at 79% level as I'm talking. Now, that's not where I buy. That's usually where I start to think about how we're going to fail there and construct a short when I'm dealing with, we're all trading back up within this range here. There's also a larger range here. And we're just a little bit above the 62. So I've been using that one because of that massive drop. And all this has been coming up to try to fill that imbalance in there. So what will the market do now that we fill that imbalance? So some of these pairs at the moment, they're all moving up to their levels. They're not showing a reversal yet. Are we going to move beyond levels and move higher? So I don't like to be buying right at the highs. I need a pullback. I'm going to be a buyer. All right, so it's just a question of getting your levels in and understanding where we're at the moment. We're at the 79% level of that movement down. All right, I'm just going to head over to. Just want to see what the New Zealand dollar is doing. All right, let's talk about New Zealand dollar. Now we do have the interest rate decision coming out. In fact, I'll go back to that later because we've got the interest rate decision coming out tomorrow, and I wouldn't be opening a trade today when I know that we've got an interest rate decision coming out tomorrow. So, but we can talk about those levels a little bit later. Let's head over to Aussie yen, today chart. Now I'm monitoring a couple of ranges. The bigger range there, we're a little bit short of the 62 level. We're just trading into this day support. And there's actually a daily support low here. And this, so that's a resistance low. And then there's a resistance area from over here. This is a monthly low. This is a daily low. And you can see some more lows here, one there. And we've almost touched 90.18 today. We may have touched that. Pretty much, we've got a fraction short there. So we might be forming a double top there. Okay. Long-term trend is down on this pair. If I just go to the monthly chart, we're having a bounce off monthly support down here. But this has moved to a lower bottom. It's actually put in a minor lower top here. And we're just trading up inside, a little bit inside the range of the month from the previous month. And we could be getting to the point where we may be forming a top on the weekly here. No, this is to a lower bottom. So this is just corrective up at the moment. So the weekly range is this range. And we'll be a little bit short of 62, but are we creating a double top here in this resistance area? So the whole resistance area is from that day chart low to the monthly low, and some other lows in there. All right, I might just keep that to the side there. That whole area there's resistance. Now at the moment, tomorrow if we break the low of today, that's potentially going to confirm a double top there on the day chart. All right, so the 4-hour, we haven't broken a major 4-hour swing point, but we've broken a minor one here, just changing that 4-hour to down. We've had a false move up today above the high of yesterday. False move up to that top. Are we creating a double top there on the daily? All right, I've had my fib drawn slightly differently. I've also drawn from here, which is last month's high. So we're trading up inside the candle last month to low. And you can see there, the fib makes a lot of sense there. The range of last month, we're at the 62 area. Starting to maybe change the 4-hour trend there at the 62 in that resistance area here. All right. See some 4-hour tops here as well that we're coming up to. So are we going to be topping out there? So you could be monitoring. Let's just drop down to the 15. So we've obviously sold down today with that interest rate decision at the moment. There's the move down. You could just be monitoring this range. If you think we failed up here, 79% level, 90.01 overlaps with the figure, and there's an area of resistance here. So we could come up from some form of head and shoulder pattern here. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder there. If we come up, all right, so that's a good area to be watching. All right, but you know, looking at it just from a day chart perspective, if you want a bit more clarity before engaging, you know, seeing the market break tomorrow's low. So let's assume we don't go up any higher. We break the low of today, tomorrow. That's going to start to confirm a reversal and a possible double top up here. And then if that's the case, we're obviously going to be targeting all these support areas down here. Weekly support that we false broke at 87.01 and monthly support, sorry, that is monthly support at 87.01 and the lower level at 86.24. So are we just at the starting point there of a double top and a reversal? Of course, the fact that they didn't raise interest rates today is negative for the Aussie, because the interest rate differential hasn't grown. So versus Aussie US dollar, if the US keeps raising rates, we're not raising rates. So the interest rate differential is definitely on the US side. It's widening. Excuse me one moment. All right, sorry about that. I had my phone on silent, but if you have a favorite person on your phone, the phone keeps ringing. There we go. So apologies for that. All right, hopefully it doesn't call back. All right, so the Aussie here, Aussie yen, as I was saying with the interest rate differential and interest rates not rising, then a break of tomorrow's low would maybe start to confirm a reversal there. So how much information do you need in confirmation before you're going to engage? So as I was showing you there on the 50-minute chart, you could be looking for a rally, you know, up at that 90 level, right? 90 and the 79% fib up there. Can we get up there? Can it get driven up there? And then you can look for a reversal up there. Aussie dollar. Now we have been playing at this resistance area, 67.16. We obviously went up yesterday and we couldn't quite get up to 68. Now, from a weekly chart perspective, this actually is in a downtrend where this is just corrective. Lower bottom here. All right, and we're just coming up to the next day chart level of resistance. But this daily is in an uptrend at the moment. But we're holding up here. Now we could be forming a double top across there as well. That high there is at 67.83 and we got a fraction short of 68. We couldn't get up to 68 yesterday. And then when the interest rate decision came out, we just obviously traded down. So are we going to be reversing up here to 4-hour chart? This 4-hour trend is still up. We want to just pull back to last week's high. So potentially, you know, if we can get support at last week's high here, we could, you know, still move up for the week. We are in a trend on the day chart. higher time frames are down, but the day chart trend is still up here. So, looking back up the range, if that sell-off that we've had today because of the interest rate decision, excuse me one moment. All right, sorry about that. My phone's giving me grief. It's on mute, but the favorite person's now sent me a text message. All right, so it still comes through. All right. So the Aussie yen, beg your pardon, the Aussie dollar. So this is where we move down. Is that negativity from the interest rate decision today going to hold through the course of the week now? And you look to sell a rally. Now the 79% retracement, 67.80. 67.83 is the day resistance level. And if we did get up to that level, there's an imbalance here that we formed today. Getting back up to there would fill the imbalance, and then what happens to the Aussie dollar? So anticipate that we will get some form of rally. Let me just get rid of that line. Just keep dragging this down. It keeps moving down, and I'm going to be watching to see if we can maybe get a 79% rally. Can then line up with some day chart resistance, and then start to see it turn over. All right. Now, of course, if you are on the buy side, you think, oh, that's just a bit of a dip and you want to be a buyer, you could be just looking for a trend line break to the upside. The day chart trend is up. We are getting support here at the central pivot point and last week's high. So you could be looking to trade up if your overall bias is to the upside. All right. I don't think my bias is going to turn to the upside until we are above 68. All right. We traded down to about 66, and then it's taken like the best part of 3 or 4 weeks just to move up from 66 almost to 68. So it's like 100 pips a week range we've been having. So I don't know how much upside potential there is for the Aussie dollar. And whilst we aren't above 68, I'd be looking for, failures up at 68 or just short of at the moment. But you may have a different perspective, okay? We are getting support there at central pivot point and last week's high. So as I say, I'm going to watch up here, we'll retest, and then what happens on the retest. All right, moving to the euro yen. Just wanted to see what's going on. All right, one moment. I'm just going to get rid of my phone out of the room. Apologies. All right, just got a question coming in. So Aussie dollar, what if a bear flag? Let me just go back to the Aussie. So yeah, we've got this move up like so. When you're saying the bear flag, I think you're kind of saying like so, and then we're going to maybe move down like so. So there's the flag at the moment. If that's what you're kind of just telling me. So yeah, to me, I just feel like this is just corrective on the weekly chart. All that move up there at the moment, and as I've been saying, it hasn't been having a very strong move. This isn't a weekly downtrend to a lower bottom. This is just corrective here. You're very slow going. Now, of course, it can speed up, but I just think that this is short-term corrective. We are potentially having a month up now as well, but as I say, whilst we're below 68, there's not much headway for the Aussie there. All right, so I'm just watching up there. Just want to look at the Euro Yen. We are rejecting up there at the 79% area. Couldn't quite get up to the highs there. So you could be watching, as we're starting to withdraw there, maybe at the 79 level. As I said, it's only going to cost about 65 pips, did I say? If you wanted to sell at the 79% level, stop above the high, but you could be looking for a tight entry here if you start to see it reverse. Euro dollar. All right, stall. Just holding. It's not reversing yet, but it's by no means breaking above at the moment. We'll come back to that. We only need one negative candle to close and break below that trend line, and we're starting to get a reversal up there, aren't we? And while I'm talking about reversals, this would be a very aggressive trade, but we are sticking up there at the moment at 125 on the pound. Is that going to be an intraday top or the top for the day? We have actually done the range, more than the range for the day. So it'd be aggressive to sell up that 125, but it depends what your mindset's like. All right, New Zealand yen. Now, very range bound. We've held at weekly support at the bottom. And depending on what the interest rate decision does tomorrow, if we go up, the clear level to watch is weekly resistance really up there. Unless we falter at the daily, at this resistance area here. But, we traded above it 2 days and closed below it 2 days. By the end of today, what does the market do? We get a third day in a row closing below that level. That's going to mean something. And of the whole range, there's a 62% area here. So at the moment, what does the close of today bring, first of all, would be my question. If we get another close below 63.53 here, this could be a topping out point to move back down to weekly support. Depending on what the interest rate does, though, we could be all the way back up to top of the range, and then you're looking at the top of the range potentially, for a failure. Like, see this move up here? This is a little bit like what we're seeing on the pound today. Breaking above, weekly top, close right at the top of the candle, but then it could not follow through. So that's what we want to be seeing on the pound, or are we going to get a follow through over the next couple of days? All right, so the New Zealand yen here. After the interest rate decision, what does it do? This is a very obvious area to look for a short if we come up to retest and fail through the week. All right. We might, through the day though, if you're wanting to watch this, 83.53 at the moment, intraday here is being some form of support, but you might see it shift to resistance because it was resistance yesterday. Here where we try to move above and failed. So just watch what's happening at 83.53. Do you see, you might see price break down. You might see a tight trend line break here, breaking below 83.53. Okay. New Zealand dollar. Now, a little bit like the Aussie. Someone was talking to me about flags. We could say this is a bit of a flag coming up here. We've been holding at, so this is Monday, Tuesday. So last week we tested that high at 62.94, but we couldn't really close above 62.75 here. All right, this is like that. The Aussie, this has been very heavy going, trying to move up here, probably doing about 100 pips in a week. All right, but we are making higher bottoms and a higher top, but we are holding out here. So we've traded at 63 today. We're kind of trading all within this longer term range here. All right, 79% levels just up here, 63.23. Now tomorrow, if we spike up to 63.23 and start to reverse and we move back below 63, is that telling you something? That maybe we're failing putting in the top here to move down. It's always difficult with interest rate decisions because as soon as it comes out, it's going to spike one way or the other. All right. So the weekly trend, let's just double check. My memory serves me. Weekly trend is down here, moving up from a lower bottom, struggling to move up like the Aussie's doing. So it's a lot different, much different to the pound dollar and the euro dollar. It's a struggle. All right. So I'll be watching to see what happens tomorrow. Where is price in relation to 63 come the end of today's trading? I don't think this is going to do too much today. So just trying to get in today. Price probably won't move too far. So then you're stuck in a trade with little or no profit and then the news items coming out. So it's just a question of waiting to see what the news does and its relationship to the resistance area here it's been holding to, or are we moving above? So you're going to see here on the 15-minute chart that we have been trying to move above 63, but with the interest rate decision on the Aussie, that caused this to sell off, and maybe 63 is starting to become resistance here. But I don't know if it's going to be moving too far away from where it is at the moment through the course of the day. All right, dollar Canadian. Now this has had like 6 days down, I think 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days down. This is not where you want to be a seller, because why would you sell on the 6th day down? Wouldn't you sell on the 1st or the 2nd day down? Well, you're going to wait 6 days and give away that profit. Now, from a weekly perspective, this is actually in an uptrend here. So whilst it looks rather negative, this could all just be an aggressive pullback on the weekly chart there. So I'm just watching that 79% level. Do we have a 79% pullback, and do we shift around? Do we turn back up? This area of resistance that we broke above here, it could be resistance on a pullback. We could get a 1 or 2 day pullback to 134.75, and then do you see a setup trade down? But I'm just watching to see what it does here, because this could actually turn around at 79% pullback to trade back above this area and just move all the way back up. The interest rate differential favors the US side, and the dollar and the Canadian side didn't raise interest rates last time. So whilst we're obviously heavily correcting at the moment, long term at the moment, the interest rate differential is favoring the US side, not the Canadian side. So unless there's some other fundamental shift going on here, this could just be corrective. I just want to have a look at the size of the ranges. I just want to measure this range, because often pullbacks can get very similar. So that was a pullback there. All right, so that's the height of the last pullback. So we're just pretty much moved all the way down the same distance as last time. But what I might do is do that as a line. And get rid of that. And I measure the right range. So that was the last weekly chart pullback. So then if you just drag it across, you can see that we're just fractioning below the same distance. All right. So, if we start to turn around, often ranges can repeat very similar in length. So, within a trend that it's, so if you have an uptrend, this pullback here, this upward move can be of a similar length, and then the downward move is a similar length, so on and so on within the trend. Okay, so we may be having a similar matching pullback to the previous one. It's a bit more aggressive than the last one. The last one was a lot more choppy and range bound, but watch that 79% level at 133.89. Do you start to see a reversal down there? Now, dollar franc. I've been discussing on the monthly chart, are we forming a double bottom down here? Now we've had a very good month up, then we'll reverse straight back down. Are we going to hold here? There's monthly support at 90.84. There's 2 weekly support levels, 90.59, and there's another level there at 90.71. Just pausing, I just want to see what's coming on the chat. So are we trading down through? There's lots of lows over here to the left. There's more lows here. I mean, do you want to be selling into those lows? Sitting on my hands at the moment. Until yesterday, well, for the most of the last couple of weeks, we've been coming down maybe below 91.37, this day support level, and moving back above. All right, so this closing back above 91.37 again is good for the buyers. All right, so I'm just looking for the day chart at the moment to tell me, are we going to reverse down there? So as I said at the start of the webinar, lots of pairs are moving to their extremes at the moment. Are the extremes going to get clearly broken? I mean, the pound's broken it level at the moment. Still moving up, so it's 125.14 at the moment on my other window screen. All right, so I'm just monitoring this at the moment. And also, it's worth having a fib drawn across that impulsive move up, just so that you can monitor what price is doing in relation to the 79% level. So we're a little bit below it, but we start to see price action on the 4-hour chart here, moving back above 79% and that 91.37 level. And then, comes back to this area and starts to hold, and the structure changes to a higher top. And then we see a retracement. We might see a reversal down here. All right. Just have to monitor. I mean, is anybody prepared to be a seller down there? Anybody want to sell down there? I don't. I'm just waiting to see if it reverses. All right, dollar yen. Now, to the weekly charts, are we getting a reversal here? This is a monthly low. I said over the last 2 weeks, watch 130.40 to be support, and we got support there. And the US to the yen's been moving up, and the pound dollar's moving up. The euro dollar's been moving up. So we're not seeing a clear US dollar, direction, because the US dollar's gaining on the yen. So are we forming a big head and shoulder pattern here? At the moment, we are contained between weekly support and weekly resistance from that low over here. This other line here is a daily chart top. So we are struggling up at weekly resistance here, but we have moved up. When we moved up here, that's to a higher top. All right. So we might get a pullback, but can we form a higher bottom to continue the uptrend? So I'd just be monitoring the range to the 4-hour chart, monitor that range there. Now, if we've got a deep pullback, 79% level is down at 130.51, and that weekly support level is there, that would be a great area to watch for the buy in line with that head and shoulder pattern forming down here. All right. At the moment, it is struggling today at resistance, so we may actually be seeing us, the opportunity to trade down from day chart resistance there, but I'm not that fussed about trading this way because the trend is up on the day chart. So I was looking for an opportunity to trade in line with that trend. Now we could, whilst I know we have to trade all the way down there to get down there, but I just like to trade with the trend. So the day chart trend is up. I'm just looking to see where price could pull back to the 62. All right, or it could pull back to the 79. So just monitoring now. From a 15-minute chart perspective, if you think this day chart resistance here that we've hit today or that we're holding at is going to mean that price is going to pull back to that 62 level or 79% level, and you want to get in intraday to trade down, look for whatever your setup is here against that day chart resistance, which is pretty much 133 here. So, do you see a trend line break trading down from 133? Or whatever it is your setup is to trade down. But don't forget where the trend has been unfolding over the last week. It is to the upside. And even though I'm looking for a pullback to the 62 or 79, we might not pull back that deep. We may just start to trade up. All right, so that's why I'm not keen to short. I'd like it to come to a level and then look for my opportunity to buy. All right. Last one to look at, gold. Right, so last week, this is my day chart look. I was discussing 1959 was the level to be a buyer at if you were prepared to buy at such high levels. And if you were doing that, you would have been successful. But it isn't really going anywhere, is it? So let's just go through the high time frames. We're at the 79% area, a little bit fraction above of the monthly correction. I mean, that's moved down to a lower bottom. This could be a lower top at the 79% area. We're stuck between weekly support and weekly resistance. This is just a horrible area at the moment. I mean, it is holding that weekly trend uptrend. So we have a monthly downtrend where we could be putting in a lower top up there. However, on the weekly, we have a higher top, higher bottom. And on the daily, we just have a lower top, higher bottom, so a consolidation on the day. So it's just a mess there, isn't it, at the moment? Are we moving higher or are we moving lower? So what I'd like to see, if you want clarity, you want to see that day chart show you a clear trend up or down. I don't like where it is in terms of the uptrend. If we start to see an uptrend, it's so high up there, getting towards the 2000 level where we fell before. If you move back to, say, the weekly chart here, the 2000 level up here where we double topped, that's so high price for gold. Do you want to buy it up there at so high a price? All right. First of all, though, I think you need to see clarity from the day chart. High bottom, lower top. Stuck between support and resistance. I think, if you have to trade gold because that's the only thing you trade, you want to be looking to be a trader down from weekly resistance or a trader up. Trade up from weekly support. All right. And you could be, monitoring that on the 4-hour chart. My lines don't show on the 4-hour chart. So on your 4-hour chart, as you can see, it's just swung to a downtrend, back to an uptrend. It wasn't an uptrend, back to a downtrend, back to an uptrend. I mean, that's just difficult trading, isn't it? So look to the top of the range to trade down, or to the bottom of the range. Trade up, use those weekly levels of support and resistance there. Or of course, you could be using this high up here. All right. Not easy going there on gold. Slav, I know you trade gold. Have you been engaging on gold recently? It's been terrible price action. All right, so let's just head back to the Eurodollar and see what it's doing. It is just holding above that level at the moment. That pound dollar is moving still up at the moment. Let's just go to the weekly chart. Where's the next level of resistance? 126.67. And then I just want to look at the daily chart. All right. So there's a high there on the day chart, 125.99, a weekly area at 126.67, quite a number of old tops in there. So it's worth having that on your chart. So wherever this is heading towards at the moment, they're my higher levels. The question still is, it will have a pullback potentially at some point, unless it just keeps screaming up. It doesn't normally just scream straight up for like countless 4-hour candles before some form of a pullback. Might start to exhaust itself just where it is at the moment, above 125. But you just want to be looking for a pullback. There's a 124.48 now. Be support. And have those on there, because if you are long at the moment, you know, where you're taking profit, you need to know where the next level of day resistance is, 125.99, so pretty much 126, and weekly resistance at 126.67 up there. All right. Still very strong, that one. We'll go back to the Eurodollar. All right, Eurodollar, you can monitor that for a reversal or not. It did put in a negative candle on the last candle, but it's just popped further up at the moment. What's that Eurodollar doing? Is it getting back up? Still at the 79% level. So if you've been on my webinar with the 4-hour entry technique, you know, we might put a 4-hour rejection candle in here, just waiting for the break of the candle for an entry to trade down. And that candle is going to be, there's another 3 hours to go on that candle, another 3 hours before this candle finishes. So you could look for a break of the 4-hour candle if it rejects up there. Same with the Eurodollar here. Whilst we're positive at the moment, we've still got 3 hours to go on the 4-hour candle. All right, so if you don't want to entertain getting in on a 50-minute chart for a potential reversal up there, just wait for the 4-hour candle to finish and see what it's telling you. And I got something coming in, Anthony. Let me just read what you're saying. You see, I don't use EMAs, RSI, etc. I don't use EMAs because they're too slow. RSI, I mean, I could use RSI if I wanted to, but I just like to use price action. What does price action tell me? I will if I'm, you know, like up here at the moment, if I'm trying to work out up here, is this starting to hold and want to reverse, maybe back down the range? What I will do, I do use MACD from time to time. So if I go to the Eurodollar, and I often look at the 4-hour MACD in terms of a shift of momentum back to the downside. So if I was looking up here at the moment for a potential failure, you know, I would look for divergence. We've maybe got divergence. We need to see the MACD cross down. So if I don't think this is holding here, and I think it maybe got a little bit more uptick on it at the moment, what I will often do is I just wait for the 4-hour MACD to cross down. All right, so if I see a lot of volatility and aggressiveness in price action as it's moving up to some highs, maybe then I'm looking to maybe trade down from, and I'm not sure that it's going to stop, well, I just hold off and I will wait for the 4-hour MACD to cross down. All right, so at the moment it's quite a while away from crossing down, so maybe we are going to move through there, but maybe, you know, maybe divergence is going to form there over the next couple of days on the 4-hour chart. So all I know is this is a very good strong area of resistance where we failed at here, we failed at last week, and of course we false broke over here. So I'm just watching the area. Now you could use RSI and wait for the RSI signal to tell you that it's turning over, or you could use stochastics. I'll use MACD, but generally I'm just looking at price and asking myself, you know, like I've taught the 4-hour trade entry, you know, at the moment, the last 4-hour candle up here, resistance. Let me go to my other charts. Got my lines already in here. The last 4-hour candle rejected there. The current 4-hour candle hasn't taken the high out of the last 4-hour candle. So if we get another rejection on a 4-hour candle here and it closes negatively down, then a break of that candle to me would just tell me then that we're getting reversal there. I don't need an RSI, which is a lagging indicator, or an EMA. And if I put 2 EMAs on here, they're never going to tell me that we're topping out up here if we're topping out. All right. It's never going to tell me in time. You know, if I use a 20 EMA and a 10 EMA on the 4-hour chart here, it's never going to tell me that I'm topping out there because it's just way too slow. All right. So I'm always looking at structure and failure, be it with the trend or for a reversal if it's at a critical level. And I'm getting asked pound dollar 4 hours, their divergence there. Well, not really, no, because that high there, obviously price is going up to a new high. In the most current price action, no. Recently, maybe yes. You know, when we were going up here, we had divergence there. All right, and potentially when we hit here and started to move down there, we may have had some divergence as well. But now, if I just look at the most current price action, which is here, and with the indicator there, no, I don't think so. All right, and what I did notice today, this is just off topic, but to the Aussie, when we were up at the 68 level, was it the Aussie? I saw some divergence somewhere on a pair today. I thought it was the Aussie, maybe it was the Aussie yen. Here we go, Aussie yen. So whilst we've been discussing on the Aussie yen that we're in a resistance, this double top area here, for example. All right, when I look at my 1-hour chart, whilst we tried to move up here today, there was divergence forming on the 1 hour. All right, so you know, I use MACD that way just to maybe if I need some added confirmation that I think something's topping out before I start to engage to get in. Those are the things that I look at. Do I start to see, try to move up and then collapses? Do I see divergence? Is it at resistance? So, I mean, I can use an indicator in that form. Tell me. All right, so hopefully that helped you. All right, so, I mean, if that starts to move, you know, if you start to see price action here, move below 125, comes back up, and you kind of get like a 79% retracement. What I was trying to show you here that, you know, you get a 79% retracement overlapping with the figure. So, you know, if you get a pullback from here now, 15-minute, if you start to see a 15-minute decline, so I'd have to get down to that level. And, you know, this sort of affair, then that could be a good opportunity to trade down from 125. You know, you just have to monitor. I think just selling at 125 at the moment could be a bit aggressive, but make your own decision. It's overextended on the day. Is it just all stops going off here and everybody's gone nuts, buying, retail traders buying, stops going off because they think they're wrong, gets driven up there, and then is it just going to come back down? Of course, with the pound dollar there, critical level to watch in the pound dollar is that 124.48 level. Here it is. All right. If we keep existing above there, we're going higher on the pound dollar. All right. All right, I'm going to call it a day there. I think I've got all the questions done. I've got something else coming in here. And you're saying on the last chart, I'm not quite sure there, Anthony, what chart you're talking about in your second message. So hopefully I covered it for you. If I didn't, just type in. And whilst I'm waiting for that last message to get confirmed, tomorrow I'm just going to go through in the webinar the patterns that were forming last month in price action on the pairs. What can we learn from what happened last month moving forward? So a review of price action patterns that were forming last month. That's tomorrow's topic. And then we'll have more live analysis on Thursday. So we'll do the job figures on Friday, but hopefully Thursday we'll have a bit more of an idea as to whether the areas that are getting tested, whether it's support or resistance, are they holding the pairs that are at the extreme? So we're starting to see some reversal and some maybe patterns forming that we can trade. All right, thanks, Anthony. Okay, everybody, thanks very much. Thanks for all the questions coming in. So hopefully, some of these pairs, I'm very much watching that dollar franc down at support. And we did miss a pair actually. So just before I go, I don't know if I went through the euro pound. So the euro pound is heading into an area of weekly day support down here. All right, so I'm just watching this. I was looking for 87.54 day support here, maybe to hold. Of course, we're a little bit below it at the moment, but just monitoring to see what happens here. Well, we could come down to 87.22, which is weekly support. Do we get a reversal down there? Or do we simply start to move back up, back above daily support? And do you see 87.54B support over the next trading day or two to trade back up the range? This has been excessively range bound. So if the pound just calms down and just starts to gain or lose at the same rate that the euro dollar does, we will probably see a reversal back up there, back up the range. All right, so watch that 87.54 down to 87.22 area for a reversal back up. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you're on YouTube, thanks for watching. I couldn't see the chat, but hopefully you could watch okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great trading day. Just be aware of those interest rate decisions, New Zealand dollar tomorrow at midday. Of course, the job figures coming out on Friday. And we've got job figures on Thursday evening for Canada as well. So make sure you go to Forex Factory and you know where all the items are coming out so you don't get blasted unnecessarily by the news. All right, everybody, have a great trading day. Thank you.